Chief White House correspondent Major Garrett is with us now from Washington. Major, good to see you. Donald Trump split the states that voted over the weekend. So the question is his message losing resonance, or did Ted Cruz just have a really, really good weekend?
Both. Ted Cruz had a very good weekend, and there is clear indications that the momentum that Donald Trump carried into this weekend ebbed in the latter stages, right before the votes were cast and the caucuses were held. And in the case of Kentucky and Louisiana, his margin of victory narrowed. And in the case of Maine and Kansas, both places where Trump campaigned, he was obliterated. And I think there's something fascinating to look at in Maine and Kansas. One of the things that Trump says is, I bring all these new voters to the process. I've brought this tremendous amount of energy. Some of that is true, but so can Ted Cruz claim to bring that same momentum. Let's just compare turnout in Maine and Kansas this cycle to 2012. Now, in Kansas, 72,000 people showed up for the caucuses this year, compared to 29,000 4 years ago. In Maine, 18,000 showed up compared to 5,000 last year. Ted Cruz won both of those places, and he got more votes for himself than the entire turnout the 4 years before in Maine and Kansas. So, Republican voters are energized, point one. Point two, Donald Trump is bringing some of those voters to the table, but so clearly is Ted Cruz. So within an atmosphere of energized Republicans in places like Maine and Kansas, caucus states where the turnout was way, way higher than 4 years ago, Ted Cruz out-organized Donald Trump, won both states handily, and he also narrowed the gap with Trump in Kentucky and Louisiana, all indicators that people are moving toward Ted Cruz and beginning to rethink Donald Trump.
So 4 states head to the polls tomorrow, Major, for a Republican contest. About 150 delegates are at stake. If Marco Rubio doesn't pick up a significant amount, could he be done before his home state of Florida votes on March 15th?
Well, that's a theoretical could be done. But look, Marco Rubio is going to stay in this race until Florida. He's not going to get out. He's got to make a case and make a play in his home state of Florida and do the best he can. And if he wins, he can say, I can stay in this race because I won my home state. If he loses, it's effectively over. What to look for tomorrow night is Michigan. One of the central premises of the Donald Trump campaign is that he redraws the map for Republicans in the Rust Belt. Michigan, Illinois, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, to a lesser extent, New Jersey. All of these states, Trump believes, works well for him, and that he can out-campaign and out-politic Ted Cruz in the Rust Belt states because he's much tougher on trade, much tougher on immigration than Ted Cruz is. So Trump is leading in the polls in Michigan. If he wins there and maintains what you see there, a general large margin over Ted Cruz, then he has proven or reinforced the point that in the Rust Belt, Donald Trump is a formidable political actor, and Republicans ought to take note of that because in a general election campaign, Michigan, Illinois, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania have been off the books for many, many election cycles. Trump argues, I can put them back on the Republican map. Don't run against me. Run with me so we can redraw the electoral map. So Michigan is an important place to watch tomorrow night.
Meanwhile, Senator Cruz, Major, is trying to finish off Marco Rubio in Florida. Now, over the weekend, he told the New York Times his campaign did that they could still win. Cruz's campaign could still win, even if they don't win Florida or Ohio. They said that the map is in their favor, something that the New York Times seems to indicate is probably not correct.
That's right. You really have to figure out a way without Ohio and Florida, which are both winner-take-all states, 99 delegates in Florida, I believe 66 in Ohio. How do you lose all those and still get yourself over the magic number of 1,237? The Cruz campaign does all sorts of math to figure out a way to do that. But what they're assuming is there's a substantial, precipitous drop-off for Donald Trump's support, and they pick up the lion's share of delegates all the way through the California primary in the first week of June. That's a big, big mathematical gamble, and it may not even play out. But what the Cruz campaign wants to do in Florida is knock Rubio out of this race. They want a one-on-one matchup with Trump. Now, there was some talk, very informal, and obviously it went nowhere, of a sort of gentleman's agreement where Cruz would not try to meddle in Florida, give Rubio the best chance to get the delegates there, beat Trump, and divide the Trump support so they could deny him the 1,237 he needed and go to a contested convention. Cruz did not buy that. Cruz believes this math, wants to get Rubio out of this race by seeing him lose in Florida and then carry on a mano race against Trump.
All right, a lot to look forward to, especially Michigan tomorrow. Major Garrett in Washington for us. Thank you so much.
You got it.